This is a conversation with Brent Black. He's the founding presenter of 104.4 Virgin Radio Dubai and currently hosts the Afternoon Drive Show. He's an RJ and a podcaster. In this episode, we discuss his origin story, his time in Indiana, working in Virgin Radio Dubai and with Kris Fade, skills required to be a good radio host, and some of his favorite life stories. A small disclaimer for this episode: this was shot exclusively on Zoom. While I do prefer having my guests in the studio with the Lego, I think it definitely adds a certain element to each conversation. In this scenario, it did not work out. We both try to make it happen, and these are tough times as well. So, for this episode, we shot this on Zoom, but from the next ones, we'll be back in the studio with the Lego. This is no time. If you like what you see, then do hit subscribe on YouTube. You should smash that button nice there. Or if you like the audio version, then you can follow this channel on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or Anchor. This project continues to take a lot of my time, money, and efforts. If you'd like to see it continue, do consider making a small donation on Patreon. For other forms of love and support, you can follow this channel on Instagram or Twitter, or follow me personally.
And now, I'm very good at this. It's no time.
In the movie Tropic Thunder, Robert Downey Jr. says that I'm a dude playing another dude disguised as another dude. And you said the same about yourself, that you're just playing a dude on the radio. Do you actually view it that way? That your on-air personality is very different from how you are in person? Because everything I've seen of you, like so far, you're as flamboyant or as funny and charming in person as you are on air.
Aww. You're just saying that because it's true. Well, okay, I say that kind of flippantly on my... I like that you caught the reference on the Instagram bio. Just a dude playing another dude on the radio. I will say, in radio, one of the hardest things you do is to find your voice. They always say, you got to find your voice. And it's like, what does that mean, find your voice? I already have a voice, right? But what I've come to learn is that it means you need to find the pieces of your own personality and heighten them a little bit, right? So you need to be able to express yourself honestly, be yourself, but just turn up the energy, the personality, because nobody can be on 24/7. Nobody can be that. What I do for 4 hours on the radio, I couldn't imagine keeping up with that kind of energy, those kinds of personality traits for more than that. Even after a lot of people say, "Oh man, you worked like you only work 4 hours a day. That's incredible. What a great job that is." Yes, however, at the end of that 4 hours, I'm exhausted, and I haven't walked a step. You know, I stay there. I stand up in front of the microphone. I always stand because it's good energy, right? But man, I am beat after that 4 hours. So when I say I'm playing somebody else, it's me. It's just an amplified version of myself. So if you meet me, like right now, there's no way that what I am right now is what I sound like on the radio. Maybe kind of close, but it's me. But at the same time, it is definitely me playing a role, sort of.
Is that hard for you? Because, I mean, you mentioned it perfectly, where there's a sweet spot or like a fine line between being yourself, being authentic, but also exaggerating a certain personality so that you amplify certain traits. Does that come naturally to you? Or do you have to consciously make that switch?
I will say, well, no, it's definitely a conscious thing. It's definitely something that you do every day when you get into the studio. You just kind of, it's a performance. I mean, you know, somebody was asking me the other day, or they made a comment on my Instagram. They said, "Oh, you know, I really enjoy watching your stories, and I don't know why. I don't understand why I really like to watch your stories." And I said, "Well, I don't know. I don't understand why you like watching your stories. They're just so entertaining." I said, "Well, maybe it's because I'm an entertainer, and my girlfriend is an entertainer. We are, when it comes down to it, we're entertainers," which is weird. And I had to think about that. It's like, yeah, I am. I'm an entertainer. And so you learn over the years, and pardon me while Lloyd makes an appearance. You'll see Lloyd several times because she just can't get enough of me.
Glad to have another guest.
And anyway, so it's like, you know, I feel that it's not as difficult now. I mean, man, I've been doing this, and I can't believe I've been doing radio for 20 years. Did you know that?
Yep.
I just celebrated my 20th year on radio.
Congratulations.
So weird. Thank you. It just means I'm old. No, after a while, when I said you got to find your voice or whatever, after a while, when you do kind of find that, it becomes much easier. It's just so much easier to just kind of switch on, do your thing. You'll have some days where it goes better than others. Sometimes you come out of the studio and think, oh man, that wasn't that show wasn't that great. Man, I wish I could have that one. Not really have it back, but there's one thing that you do when you're hypercritical, like we are. Most people in the radio are just hypercritical of themselves. At least I think you should be in order to be successful. But yeah, when you have like a bad break or two, you just think, man, that show wasn't very good. Or when you come out and you think, man, that was a fantastic show. I really, really, really feel good about that. You have once you kind of find yourself, find your voice, find that kind of that niche that you belong in, then it becomes easier. It's easier to switch on and just kind of do your thing. We host things. Sometimes I'll go host a live event or do some stage work or even do like, vlogs now like this are very, very popular. Like, am I who I am normally right now? I'm probably closer to who I am normally right now. But at the same time, you just kind of learn. Oh, I gotta switch on my personality now. I can't just kind of like I'm getting out of bed. You just get in there and do it. And yeah, it's not. I won't say it's super. Nah, it's fairly easy now. There was one point where I would get nervous going into the studio. I mean, I'd have that nervous energy. At first, it was like terrified energy, and then as years progressed, then it was kind of that cool, nervous energy, which I think is really important to have. Now, do I have that nervous energy? Just maybe a little bit. It's pretty easy just to kind of get into it now because I don't want to focus on that anymore. I don't want to focus on the bells and whistles of, I got to make sure I got to make sure that I mention this. I got to make sure. I mean, I have to do that stuff, and that's always in your head. I got to make sure I get that sponsor credit in or whatever. I want to seem real first and foremost. Be real, and then after that, besides being real, I want the person listening to me to know that I'm not being fake and that I'm being authentic to them, even though this is a heightened version of myself. You know it, I know it. We're both in on the deal. It's kind of a deal we make ourselves. It's like they know I'm in a room all by myself, probably talking to one of these. So I try to make sure that comes across. And I know I just went on a super tangent there. Hope you enjoyed the trip.
It was pretty enjoyable. So what we like to focus on the show is everyone's origin story, and yours began
origin.
in. Yeah,
Well, it started when I was bitten by a spider in my laboratory.
Right. Yeah, radioactive spider. Well, you shouldn't reveal it on air. So you were born in Lagro, Indiana, which is a very small town. Yeah. So, which is a very small town, has a population of under 500 people, I believe. Just to set the context right, let's say if I was living in Lagro, what would my typical Sunday look like? What do people do on the weekend? What do they like doing there?
Okay, so I lived in this town, and 500 is generous now probably because small towns, small towns in the United States now aren't what they were, say, when I was growing up. They change tremendously because of just the growth. Small towns do one of two things: either they get larger or people move out, and that's kind of the thing about my town. People, even when I was there, you could feel people were starting to move out. All it takes is the change of a major highway. We had one major highway running through this town. They built an interstate over that highway, so people never had to stop in my town anymore. That was after I left. So now, who knows how many people? I don't know how many people are there. It was, it's a typical Midwest, sad to say, kind of a all white bread town. You do one of two things: either you stay there your whole life and never get out and never learn anything, or you run as fast as you can. Fortunately for me, my parents moved when I think I was 12, 13. So that small town, that's like a village. Most people, I think, in most places in the world call that a village. That small town has some impact on who I am as a person. But I also know man, you say, what was it like on a Sunday? Just quiet. Super, super quiet. A lot of people going to church. A lot of people just kind of, it's hard to describe. It depends on the part of the year. In the winter, you might be wading through a meter of snow just to get out to the school bus. In the summer, you got nothing better to do, so you are playing with the neighbor kids, which was really kind of cool. It's something that unfortunately I don't see here in Dubai as much as I'd like to. There's some communities where I do see some kids kind of playing. That community where you just go out with a big group of kids and you feel safe to run around the neighborhood and play tag or hide and go seek, whatever it is. It was a very American small town kind of life, but also, sadly, it wasn't very mind opening. The experience of living in a town of 500 white people only will get you so much life experience.
You mentioned that it did impact your personality. I wanted to explore that a bit. I have this very unscientific, unverified hunch that often people who come from smaller towns, smaller cities, uh, they adjust really well in cities, bigger cities, because you come from a mindset where maybe everyone knows everyone. It might be easier to strike up a conversation at a bus stop or at the grocery. And also, you have this compassion for people, or you have empathy for people more. It's what I've seen. And in bigger cities, I find it can get a bit more isolating where there might be a certain stigma to just approaching someone on the street and striking up a conversation or helping people out. Everyone's doing their own thing a bit more. Do you think that, and I know these qualities are in you because you've always reached out to people and you always try to help them. Even in the past, you've always been vocal about when people lose their jobs. You've always shown a lot of empathy for that. Even when you got the LA Drive show, I believe you took over the previous host and you mentioned, even though that was a big break in your career, you were quite neutral about it because you didn't like taking over from the previous host who had obviously held the job for a long time. So do you think all these qualities within you, have they come from the towns you were living in, or is it something that comes naturally to you?
No, well, okay. I don't think a lot of things come naturally. I don't think anybody's born with anything. It's definitely your experiences. You are a sum of all of your experiences and everything that you've experienced. So 1,000,000%, growing up in small town, Midwest Indiana, had a huge impact on how I treat people. Um, maybe even more than just the town. I was raised by my grandmother. And I find that people that are raised by their grandparents are more thoughtful, mainly because, grandparents in general are, they're more wise, they've got a lot more life experience, and they're not burdened by everything else in life that's going on, whether it's, employment or unemployment in my parents' sake, or my parents' uh, case. My parents had some, employment things going on in my young life, which was very difficult. So my grandmother, to help them have a career, to help them sort of be a couple, she took me on 90% of the time. I lived with my parents for the summer, pretty much. When I was out of school, when I was in school, I lived with my grandmother until I was like 13, right? So living with my grandmother, she was born in 1922. She lived through the Great Depression in the United States. Her husband, my grandfather, was a World War II veteran, and she just came from a different time where you did things like if somebody in the neighborhood died, she would make food and take it over to the relative's house so that they didn't have to worry about that kind of stuff. She would write letters, like actual handwritten letters. She wrote thank you notes. I learned so much from her about being considerate and courteous. And one of the biggest things for me is the golden rule. It really is the golden rule, which is, what's the golden rule?
I'm not sure of the golden rule. What's the golden rule?
The golden rule is to treat people the way you want to be treated, right? Treat others the way you want to be treated. That's the golden rule. Anyway.
Oh, right. I thought you were asking Lloyd.
No. I put Lloyd away. Lloyd definitely doesn't treat me the way she would want to be treated. Guaranteed.
Oh, right.
I don't know who named the golden rule. Anyway, treat others the way you want to be treated. It's the golden rule. Treat others the way you want to be treated. So that's one of my big life principles, and that's something that I learned from her. Yes, she lived in that small town her whole life. I mean, she was born close by. She died close by. She didn't move. However, she learned a lot from her 80-something years on the planet. and she did pass on so much of that to me. So more than the small town, I owe a lot of who I am to her.
Right. What were you like as a child? Were you as easy to talk to? Did you like to play pranks on people, put on a show, or did this come later in life?
I was an extremely shy kid. I didn't want to talk to people. I like just going to get a haircut, My grandmother would take me to her own salon, so I would get a haircut from the same women who were doing my grandma's gray and blue hair, right? But I was just so shy. I remember she had a daughter. I could not even look at her. I was, so shy. All the women around the beauty salon, as they called it, would talk about my long eyelashes, and they would just, oh, look at I wish I had those long eyelashes. And it's like, oh my God, would you people stop talking about me? I'm just right here. And I remember, like, I would go to places. There was a certain time where I didn't want to get my picture taken so badly that I would run and hide. I would just try to get away from cameras. I have no idea when that changed. I'm not sure when the switch clicked, but I was a super shy kid. I had body image problems. I had weight issues later on as a teenager. So there was a point, there was a transition, a shift. I couldn't tell you when that was, but obviously it was somewhere because, I'm doing this.
So before we start wrapping up on your childhood in Indiana, if there's one dish or one meal that everyone needs to try that origins in Indiana, what would that be?
Yes, green bean casserole.
Right.
Some people call it white trash casserole. It is super simple. I'll tell you the recipe, and then you can make it yourself. As Lloyd shifts, she's shifting a little bit and making some noise here. I'll tell you the recipe so you can make it yourself. It's simple. 2 cans, not fresh. Do not get it twisted. There are no fresh ingredients in this recipe. 2 cans of cut green beans, not French cut, just cut. Right? A can of Campbell's mushroom soup, cream of mushroom soup from Campbell's, and some fried onions, some the Brandis Durkeys if you can find it. Don't get those weird little tiny pieces. You got to get that big, deep fried onion. You mix it all together. You bake it, whatever temperature you like. It really doesn't matter. Make it hot. At the end, you sprinkle some of those fried onions. What you have left, make sure you leave a little left. Sprinkle them over. Bake it just really high for a couple of minutes. Get those nice and toasty. Bring it out. Serve it. Oh, delicious.
Amazing. Well, I have the recipe now, so I'm definitely going to try it.
I'll
While we're
make
talking
it.
of...
I'll make it for you.
Sorry?
If anybody wants it, come on over. I'll make it.
Perfect. You guys heard it here first. While we're talking about food, I definitely want to check with you. While you were living in Bloomington, did you go through the rite of passage where you went to the Bluebird nightclub and then you got a slice of pizza from Rockets?
Wow, come on. Look at this research. Look at that. Really?
I've hired a team in Russia actually to do my research.
So the Bluebird, or the Bird as it's called affectionately, is one of the coolest places to see live music in my college town. You mentioned Bloomington, Indiana. It's my college town, Indiana University. Go Hoosiers. It's a university town of about 100,000 people, but the university itself probably makes up for almost half of that between students and faculty. It is the true essence of an American college town. That town wouldn't be what it is without the university, because everything is there for the university or because of the university. And the Bluebird is one of many college bars, but it's a bar that hosts live music, real bands. And many, many, many times I would find myself watching a band, and then right next door is this closet-sized pizza shop called Rockets, Rockits, for some reason, that has tons of, I think they use usually cymbals, drum cymbals and drum heads that have been taken off, put on the wall, and autographed by many bands that play there. And there are a lot of famous rock bands, mostly rock bands, funk bands, things like that have come through. They play the Bird, and then they go over, have some pizza, and then they see all this memorabilia on the very small walls, and of course they'll try to leave something or whatever. It's really cool. It's a cool place, and amazing that you actually mentioned that.
I'll give a raise to the research team. So I am guessing you prefer Rockets over Mother Bear's pizza.
Oh
which
my
is,
God,
I think,
come
another
on, dude.
famous-
Actually, Mad Mushroom. If you're really looking for the my favorite place in Bloomington for pizza, I would say Mad Mushroom is the place to go. Mother Bear's not bad. Mother Bear's more of a sit down, eat in kind of a bar restaurant, but definitely from my money, it's the Mad Mushroom.
So final question I have for you based on your journey, which is, well, what do you think of when I say 3 blades, no hassles?
Wow, dude. In 2000, the same year I would later start my career in Indiana. I'll start my career in radio in Indiana. I have a few angels in my life, right? I've got a few people that I would consider the people that were most responsible for my development in this industry and in life. One of them was my manager at a newspaper. I used to work at a newspaper, right? I don't know if you got that in the research, but I did.
Can I just show off my
Yes.
research team? Herald Times, is that the one?
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. So I was working at the Herald Times, which is Bloomington, Indiana's community newspaper. It's the only newspaper really for the community. There's a student newspaper called the Indiana Daily Student. I did not work for that. The IDS. It's a great newspaper, but this was the professional newspaper, and I needed some money. I was paying my way through university, right? I started working at this newspaper. Anyway, my manager at the time, awesome. Her name is Sasha Moeller, and I have not talked to her in years, and I really need to. She said, you need to do something more than what you're doing right now. And she started headhunting for me. She actually started getting on the computer, the early days of the internet. And she found tvjobs.com or something like that. And she found this job that was traveling around the United States in this vehicle, right, for Schick razors. They had a new razor they wanted to introduce. It was 3 blades, which in 2000, I guess, was a big deal. 3 blades. Now they've got like 17 blades on the same thing. You're like, one shave, one pass by, and you're clean shaven now, right? But back then, 3 blades, that was ingenious. And what was it? The Extreme 3 was the razor. 3 blades, no hassles. That's the tagline. And the way they wanted to promote the launch of this razor was to do this countrywide tour with this big vehicle that was basically like a shower room. It was this long truck with a big trailer on the end of it, and a stage came down on one side of the trailer, and that stage was the floor of a shower room, and it had a bunch of these shower heads that you could take off, and instead of shower yourself, they were actually microphones, and you would sing into these shower heads on camera. We had karaoke. What it was a mobile karaoke thing. People would sing. We would go from city to city to city: Chicago, Pittsburgh, New York City, Miami, Pennsylvania. We went all over the country, and then we moved west. We went to Los Angeles and Las Vegas, and we were in the Midwest in St. Louis and Colorado. We went to Denver. We were all over the place. We finally wrapped up. I think the first year we wrapped up we were in the West. No, we wrapped up. We came all the way back across and went to New York City for the finals. So it was a competition. People were singing karaoke. The best karaoke singer, I remember, got a 3-song album cut in a professional studio. And it was they had a producer, and they won a trip to New York City. It was a big prize. And the whole point of this whole tour was to get on local news programs so they could, basically get us on TV talking about this cool karaoke. Hey, come on down to whatever arena. We're going to be outside doing this karaoke competition. And also, it's brought to you by Schick. Hey, Schick's new Extreme 3 blades, no hassles. You get that in the news. So what would usually happen is like the weather person would come down. It's like, look at this crazy karaoke thing. It's a shower room where people are singing, and it was one of those things that the weather person would do as like the B-reel, like something. Hey, look, it's Cliff Jones out there doing the weather. Where are you, Cliff? Oh, I'm down here at the Verizon Wireless Amphitheater today. I'm talking here to Brent Black. He's here with the Schick Shave Shack, is what it's called, the Schick Shave Shack. what are you guys doing here? And I say, oh, you know what? We're just doing this amazing karaoke competition. There's a huge grand prize. We're traveling all over the country. And then I'd say, and big thanks to Schick, big thanks to Schick. We would never say Schick Razors. We was like, and big thanks to Schick. It's the Schick Shave Shack. Hey, the Extreme 3 blades, no hassles. And people, while they're singing karaoke, would pretend we had to take the razors out, the blades. They would pretend to shave. We had shaving cream and stuff. So the weather people would get into it. They'd think, oh, this is so cool. So they're pretending to shave. It was great for the company, right? And that was the whole idea. And at the end of it, I got a reel of me doing this insane stuff in insane, awesome locations. And it was so weird. But that, after the first year, I did that for 2 years. After the first year, it was seasonal. You do it for like 4 months. I came back off of that after working at a newspaper, got this job, and Sasha's like, well, what are you going to do now? I'm like, I don't know. I don't think I can go back to newspapers. I don't think I can do that job. I need to do something because I suddenly felt that creative thing that was inside me that I wanted to get out. And so I, with her help, found my way into radio. And that's an even bigger story. But that's the Schick Shave Shack, 3 blades, no hassles. Nice work.
So you worked multiple jobs to pay your way through college, and you also saved up a lot of money to move to Los Angeles as well. What's one of the weirdest ways in which you had to save up money?
It's like some of the stories that are just in my head. If you know this one, I'd be very impressed. I have told this story to people before. So the weirdest way I made money. There was a lot of, when you say I saved up a lot of money, I saved up $5,000. That was my goal, and I did it. But the thing is, I had never had $5,000 to my name ever. It was never, even close to that. If I had $1,000 and let me do the math for people in the UAE, $1,000 is 3,600 dirhams, 3,600 plus dirhams, right? 5,000, man. There's no way. I mean, I never had that kind of money. So, one thing that I've known, and I don't know if you can tell today, I'm wearing a Michael Jordan shirt from his career. This would have been like in the 80s. I think it's 1988. This is a vintage T-shirt, right? I don't know if you know vintage, but I've been into that kind of thing for a long time, since university, since the early days of university. And I learned a lot about selling things on eBay, which was one of my career things or career paths, I guess, that helped me do what I do now. So I think eBay started in 95. I started using it in 97. I remember the first thing I ever sold, because I found this old vintage, and I love it. I wish I still had it. This old vintage telephone. And I thought, man, that's cool. And I found it at a garage sale. I don't know if you know garage sales. We don't have them around here as much as I wish we did. I found it at a garage sale for $1.
Flea market.
Yeah, like a flea market, except it's a one-person home thing. It's like you just throw your garage open, you just put all your junk out that you just don't want. You slap a price tag on it or whatever. Or if you're lazy, people just come in and say, "Hey, how much is this?" I say, "It's $1." Okay, I'll take it. Anyway, somebody had this amazing old vintage phone for $1. It was $1. I'm like, I know that phone is worth a good amount of money. I bought it. I thought, you know what? I'm going to try this. I'd been buying a little bit on eBay. This is 1997. And so I thought, you know what? I'm going to try to sell. Put this phone, I cleaned it up a little bit, put it on. I remember it sold to a guy. Here I am in Indiana. It sold to a guy in Beverly Hills for $80. And I'm like, man, this is a thing. I could make some money on this. And he had to pay for shipping? What? Boxed it up, sent it off, and like, now what? What's next? And so I started with vintage toys. And when I say vintage, I mean like toys from the 70s and 80s, pretty much. Transformers, He-Man, whatever I could find. So I started doing, toys and trying to. I was making more money doing when I eventually got on the radio in 2000. I was making more money doing eBay by far than I was making money on the radio. In fact, I couldn't have done that radio job making $6 an hour. Is that 20 dirhams an hour? Doing my radio job overnights from midnight to 6 a.m. There's no way I could have afforded life, really, not really, without supplementing my income. In fact, making more in radio or making more in eBay than I did in radio. So I started off with mostly vintage toys, and that was good money because, man, I don't know if you've ever seen the price for original 1980s Transformers. They're expensive. I used my newspaper job. I was also working so I was doing newspaper job, radio, and vintage toys on eBay for a while. I used my newspaper job to put out my free. You could get a free classified ad in the newspaper by working there. So I put out, hey, if you're selling vintage toys, or if you have some in your closet, contact me. And so I did that. And so people would contact me. I'd go out to their house and say, I'll give you this much. And I tried to be fair. I told them exactly what they had. I didn't want to be that kind of person that would rip people off. It's like, look, you have your kids' collection of Transformers from the 1980s. This is probably what they're worth. This is all I can pay. And I try to pay as much as I could and still have a good profit margin. And that's what I did for years. And then I thought, wait a minute, you like vintage clothing. What's the lightest thing? Because you want to think about shipping. Shipping toys is so annoying because you got to make sure that they get there in one piece. And toy collectors are super careful about packaging and stuff. They want to make sure the boxes and stuff are in great shape. So I thought, what's easier to ship? How about vintage T-shirts? And so that turned my enjoyment of going to thrift stores and stuff, just looking for myself. I'm a very tall person. I'm a pretty tall person. I'm about 6'5", right? I'm a hard person to find vintage clothing for because usually, for some reason, bodies were much skinnier in the 70s, 80s, 90s than they are now in the United States. It's because we love diabetes. Can't get enough of that diabetes. Anyway, so then instead of just shopping for myself, when I went to these thrift stores, I would start shopping for every size. And I would look through T-shirt after T-shirt after T-shirt. I'd look at, you judge it. You get to the point where you can judge something in a second. You get to something that's like, hey, that's a good one. Throw it in the cart. I would go out and I'd have my rounds. I knew within, a 100-mile radius of all the thrift shops, and I would try to hit as many as I could in one day. And then at night, I would go post them up on eBay. I would make so much money doing that. I could live on just that. I think it wasn't much. I think I was paying $300 a month in rent at that point, which again, that's what 1,100 dirhams a month. But loving the place I lived in because it's a college town, whatever. Anyway, this is a long story. I'm sorry, but I'm getting there. I'm getting to what you asked. The craziest thing that I did to make money to move to Los Angeles was I walked into, so I think I was up to about $3,500, something like that. And I was getting close, but I wasn't comfortable with moving to LA yet with just that amount. And I knew that the date was approaching. I happened to walk into an antique shop, an antique mall, huge antique mall. And I just walked by this couch. And it was this big fiberglass 1960s space age 3-cushion massive thing. And I just looked at it and I thought, wow, that's a really, really cool sofa. And it speaks to me. I love that stuff. I love, if you were to look around right now, I've got a bunch of vintage inspired classic furniture. And I saw that, and man, I thought that is a $5,000 sofa if I've ever seen one. I thought, and I looked at the price, and I think they wanted $1,500 for it. And that was a lot of my money. $1,500 to buy a couch when you're thinking about moving to LA. And so I developed a plan. First of all, I had them call the person selling the couch, because antique mall, there's just one person there. They get the person that owns the thing, and they say, hey, will you take, I think I offered $1,000, and they said, we'll take $1,200. And I'm like, okay. So I paid $1,200 for a couch, knowing in like a month I was moving to Los Angeles. And so I carefully moved this fragile fiberglass couch to my place, and I developed a plan. When I put it on eBay, I said, I posted it and said, free shipping if. Now, a couch is crazy shipping, right? I mean, that would cost hundreds and hundreds of dollars to ship it. But I said, free shipping if you meet me on one of these exits, and I had 2 paths I could drive to Los Angeles from Indiana. It's about a 2,000-mile drive, right? So I said, there are 2 major interstates that run through, one through the northern sort of central part, one through the southern part. And I could really take, and not really, it might cost me a few extra hours to take the southern route, not much, but certainly worth being able to offer so many people, millions and millions of people across the U.S., the opportunity to meet me at any one of these exits, any one of these interstate exits, I put my story in the description of this couch. Look, I'm moving. I'm driving across country. I can take either 70 or 80, I-70, I-80. I will meet you at any of those exits, wherever you want, to deliver the couch to you. Just bring a truck. That couch ended up getting, I think, just over $5,000. That couch on eBay, and with the expenditure of, obviously, I had to buy a bigger truck than I probably would have needed because this couch was huge because I was using a moving van. With everything, that got me, I think, just over $5,000 in the bank to move to Los Angeles after moving expenses and everything. It was perfect. Somehow they met me in Las Vegas, which was funny. It was some company. Oddly enough, it was a company in Seattle, which is way north. They had their guy drive their company truck down to Las Vegas and met me in the parking lot of some casino to do the transfer, do the deal. It was probably the most honest deal ever done in a casino parking lot in Las Vegas for a sofa, a vintage sofa. But that was it. That was definitely, I would say that was definitely the craziest thing I had to do for money, probably ever. I hope I don't have to do anything crazier for money, because come on.
Well, that's a fascinating story.
Is it? It seemed long.
is.
It seemed very long.
But it was worth it. I think the payoff was worth it. When you're selling the image of you selling the sofa in a Las Vegas casino parking lot itself is, I think, worth something. You should write a book on it, maybe.
Possibly even funnier was one of my best friends at the time loved Las Vegas. I'm just like, I can take Vegas in small doses. This guy loved Vegas. I said, hey, if you help me drive across country in this truck, hey, free trip to Las Vegas, and I'll pay for your hotel and flight back, because we were driving to L.A. I said I would pay for his flight back, so he got a free trip to Vegas and L.A. and he earned that because he was helping me. It's tough driving nonstop. It's an adventure, but I mean, at one point I remember we were in Nebraska, and the roads are just straight and long and boring, and suddenly you saw one big tree, this beautiful big tree in the distance, and I swear I was looking at a piece of broccoli. I thought, man, why is a giant piece of broccoli in the middle of the road? And I'm like, I turned, his name's Jason. I said, Jason. I woke him up. He's like, you got to drive. I'm seeing broccoli.
You did finally move to LA. You took over the Los Angeles Drive show. You did that for many years, and then you moved to Dubai in 2008. So you and Kris Fade, you're largely seen as the flag bearers of Virgin Radio Dubai now. You are one of the founding presenters. When you moved here, I think 104.4 was just an Arabic station. Virgin Radio had 0 listeners at that point. So if I had to ask you to summarize this 13-year journey so far, what has it been like?
Let me go back and just correct the record, because I don't want anybody thinking I'm fronting about my experience in Los Angeles. I was on a station called KBIG 104. It was a 104.3 KBIG. They changed the name right before I got on. They rebranded because they thought women didn't like the word big. They thought they'd be turned off by the word big, so they changed it from KBIG to KBIG, to 104.3, the new KBIG. Anyway, I was there for about 2.5, 3 years, something like that. My full time on the drive was less than a year, because they ended up blowing up the station and changing the format slightly to My FM in the end of 2007. So sadly, my full-time dream job, this is my dream job, doing drive in Los Angeles, where you've got 1 million people on the road at any given time or more, was very short-lived. Sadly, my station ended up getting the boot. They ended up rebranding again after just maybe 2 years, and they pretty much fired all the on-air staff. There's a couple people still on contract that they had to keep around. All good people, loved them, learned a lot from them. But as often happens in radio, you never know when you're going to be out, sadly, especially in the United States. Here, there's a bit more job security. But I just wanted to correct that. I didn't want to front and say, I was on there for years. I was, but not full-time. I eventually got full-time, but it was like 8 months, something like that. Anyway, what was your question again about Virgin?
I asked you to summarize the 13-year journey so far. You've seen it.
Wow.
I mean, you've seen it from the start itself.
Wow. I mean, that's tough to summarize. We did. You're right. I mean, we had no listeners because we were taking up a frequency that, yes, was something else. It was a different language. I think a lot of people didn't really give us credit. They didn't think it was going to be anything. Virgin. I remember the rumors. Virgin Radio. It's never going to be a thing. There were some other stations that definitely kind of drinking the Kool-Aid, as they say. They were a little too far up themselves, I think, to realize this is for real. And we started in a recession. I don't know if you remember 2008, 2009. Pretty interesting times. And I think had we not started when we did, I think our official launch date was like March 1st, 2008, right? But I'll say Kris was here, I think, in October of 2007 when I was still on KBIG, or KBIG. I was just wrapping up there, I guess you could say. And then I was doing I first started talking about coming to Dubai in December of 2007. And then went through all the red tape. It seems like it was a lot more, I don't want to say difficult, but there's just a lot more to do in 2007, 2008 to get here, to come over here for a job. Since I haven't had to do it since then, I don't know. But there was a lot. I went through about 6 weeks of interviews and negotiations, and then all the governmental stuff you have to go through to get IDs and stuff made, and your visit visa, so you can come in to get then your work visa. So I got here February 27th. Kris Fade's birthday, by the way. Happy birthday, Kris Fade. I didn't know him yet. I wouldn't know him for a couple of days. I think I met him first on the 1st of March. No. Yeah, the 1st of March-ish. Anyway, so to compare that to now, we've come so far, and we're living in a pandemic now in a weird time, but let's go back to 2018, 2019. It's just sky high. It's just incredible to have the vibrancy of the community. I kind of feel like the community is really kind of behind us in a lot of ways. I feel like we have become a big voice in the community, which is great. The first year, we didn't have commercials. I don't think we sold a commercial for maybe the first 6 months. It was crazy. It was all us and music. It was the weirdest thing. And then once we started selling spots, and we're like, yeah, now you can start feeling it build a bit. And then the object in the beginning of a radio station is to just try to plaster yourself everywhere. And so there was some effort to get us out, in other media, to try to get people to know who we are. And then you start feeling like, oh, you don't have to try that so hard. You don't have to try that so much. You don't have to do as much to get the word out that, hey, we're a thing. Instead, people are starting to you'll get into taxis. That's the best. When you get into a taxi and you say, hey, could you turn on the radio? If the radio is not already on, if you turn on the radio and just see what they do. And for us, very often it's Virgin. Now, I know a taxi driver will often kind of look at a person and think, what would this person like to listen to? So they probably look at me and it's like, well, he's a white guy. White guy probably wants some kind of English music. What should I go for? And they go to Virgin almost every time. Not every time, but almost every time. And that feels really good. You start seeing that happen in the market. And now we really don't worry about it. It feels so good to not worry about it so much, not worry about having to try to get noticed. Now you just kind of can concentrate on making sure that it's a good product. And that's what you should always concentrate on. I know you should always make sure it's a good product, but sadly, a lot of time in the beginning, you have to really push. Hey, this is us. We're the thing you should be listening for. Come on. Make sure you turn that channel. When you turn your channel, you turn your radio on, make sure you listen to Virgin Radio. Did you mention that we have a website? Have you listened to us on our app, whatever? So the journey has been amazing. It has been an incredible adventure, I like to say, because of the amount of things we've gotten to do and experience. But in the beginning, yeah, man, those were lean times, I will say.
You mentioned Kris Fade, and both of you have gone through this journey together, have grown together. I have a couple of questions for you. Both of you have been this Instagram couple for the longest amount of time. My first question for you is, who do you think has better hair?
Oh, me. Come on. That's not even a question. I have better hair if Kris has his hair tied in a man bun, if he has, he used to have braids for years, cornrows. But if he lets his hair out, it is glorious. I will say it is a thing of beauty when he does let his hair out. He has luscious, dark Arab hair, and it extends not just on his head, it's all over his body. Trust me, I've seen it.
Both you and him have also done a lot of challenges, a lot of adventures. I think you swam to and around the Burj Al Arab. You've
Multiple
done a
times.
multiple times. You did the basketball challenge. You did the X line over downtown. On his birthday, once I think you gave him a goat, and then the next birthday you gave him a donkey, I
Yes.
believe. So
Yes.
you've done a lot of these things together. What's one of your like favorite adventures with him?
I remember very early, I think it was 2009, he and I and our partners at the time drove, and it was one of our first big on-the-road adventures, was to Oman in the north part, to Ziggy Bay. Have you ever heard of Ziggy Bay?
I haven't.
Crazy place. It's just this crazy resort. And on the way there, first, we saw some camels, and for some reason, Kris wanted to feed the camels some grapes. I don't even know if they eat grapes. So I have old video of Kris Fade running through the desert trying to feed some camels some grapes. They want nothing to do with him or his grapes. Kris was a little overweight at the time, so it even adds a little bit more to that video. Then we got to the place, and the way you get down, and there's video of this on YouTube, look for it. Ziggy Bay Hideaway, Kris Fade, Brent Black. You paraglide off of a mountain. You paraglide off of a mountain into the resort. Kris is just terrified of everything when it comes to his health, and heights is one of those things. He was severely nervous about that. I cannot believe now, knowing what I know about him now, I can't believe he actually did it. But that was one of our fun first adventures. We've had many since then. I tried to take him several years ago skydiving. And sadly, sorry, Kris, it's true. He was a little too heavy at the time. And then he's like, you know what? I'm going to lose some weight. And then he did lose the weight. He looks fantastic now. But now he will not, under any circumstances, jump out of a plane, which is sad. That was a birthday gift I was going to give him, and it never happened.
All right, so let's talk about radio. You've tweeted in the past that being on radio is very similar to acting. It requires a lot of passion and a lot of skill to get really good at it. Do you view it as an art form?
Is it art? Yes, because I feel like, and you're right, I said that not too long ago about there was some sort of weird internet drama going on, and I said, look, radio is a passion. It is something you do that is creative. It is I just said a bit ago, we are entertainers. I guess if you're doing it right, you should be somewhat entertaining, right? And it's a creative endeavor. And so, it's an art form, definitely. If you're not considering it an art, you're probably not very good. And I'm very critical, and I'm very critical of myself. I will say I'm also pretty critical of other people who do this job, and I feel bad. I don't feel bad for the person doing it, because everybody's in a different stage of their development doing this job. It's as long as you're trying to grow, as long as you're trying to get better. I feel bad for people who are listening. I feel bad for the community when there's not a really vibrant, good amount of options to choose from. I'm hesitant to say. I mean, I'm biased. I really feel like Kris and what he's done with Priti and Rossi and the whole team on the morning show, on the Kris Fade show, I feel like they are the best, most entertaining option on radio in this country. And I really wish that there was more. I really wish that people would try a bit harder. I mean, there are things being done, but very rarely do I find anything that's terribly memorable on the radio. And I wish for the community, again, I'm saying this for the community, is I think Dubai and the UAE is just such an amazing community, and it has embraced me and given me so many opportunities. And it's incredible to see what I have become because of this place. I feel like it deserves more. And so I'd love to see more chances being taken, more thought going into every day. Forget every day. or every hour, every break. Just go into what you do with passion and realize that you're putting on a performance, and people deserve to be entertained, especially right now, with this world, with this current this is what we live in. It's good to take people out of that and give them some sort of entertainment, information, joy that they need, just to escape whatever's going on in your life right now.
What do you think are some of the most challenging aspects about being on radio that, like you mentioned, not many people are able to do it or not able to get the right kind of skill? What do you think are those elements that people need to get past?
What's
so that they
holding
can
you
truly
back?
start
What is
it?
holding you back?
Right.
Thinking that you need to be something that you're not is the biggest thing. I've mentioned that you need to find your voice and be natural. That's the hardest thing you'll ever do. And I always tell people, I've kind of trained people or tried to mentor or whatever you want to call it, people over the years. I think I'm okay at it. But the hardest thing is to get in front of a microphone and start talking to yourself, but imagining you're talking to one person, because something about radio, you don't want to talk to a lot of people, and I hear people make this mistake a lot. Hello, Emirates, or you guys, or you always want to talk directly to one person, because for the most part, radio is not a team sport. Radio is something you do alone. And if you have someone with you, you're probably not engaged. You might be listening to the music together or whatever, but it's sort of in the background. Maybe you might turn it up to listen, but for the most part, you want to talk to one person to make sure that person feels like I am talking to you. That is a very simple thing that you learn in radio. Sadly, a lot of people don't do it, but that's something that you should do in radio. That voice that you have created, that personality, takes so much effort to forget that you're just in a room alone on this microphone talking to one person. You get almost this glaze over your eyes when you're doing it, and you're not even looking. You might be looking in a direction. You're not looking that direction. You're just kind of imagining that person listening to you right now. And so right now, I'm not even looking at you. I'm just kind of talking about this. And if I'm talking about this story or whatever, I'm trying to keep my voice the same natural tone it is, but at the same time, a little more energetic. And that is, I will say, the hardest thing holding you back is just letting go of trying to be someone who you're not and do all those things at once. So try to be natural. Don't try to be funny. You can be funny without trying to be funny, if that makes any sense. If you're not a funny person, don't overdo it, because it's not going to come across as legitimate. You're going to kind of seem. There's so many stumbling blocks that can make you seem like a fraud on the radio. You have no idea until you do it. It's like, that wasn't me at all. That I just did that 30-second break about whatever company or whatever hotel, and none of it was me. You got to figure out ways of making things yourself, making things flow with your personality, whatever your personality is. Unless you're just not a very nice person, in which case I recommend not being that person.
Or not being on the radio.
I think that's really what it comes down to. If you're kind of, I don't know, if you're I don't want to say anything. If you're not a great person, maybe work on that first before getting into the media.
Was there an instance where things just fell apart when you were live on air? Something really wild happened.
I will say, and I don't want to go into it too much. How much of this can I tell you? The worst thing I ever did on the radio is I had this game that will never be played again called Sorry, Wrong Number, where I dialed up random numbers in the world. I would just pick a random number, and I would call it. The person that would answer, I would just talk to them. Usually they didn't speak English. And then I would play that recording on the radio, and you would say, what country did I dial on Sorry, Wrong Number? So what country was that? So if you heard them and you thought, oh, that sounds like Italian, you'd guess Italy, whatever. One time, I was trying to call East Timor. I don't know if you know anything about East Timor, but it's a relatively new country. I couldn't find a number for my life that would work, and I finally found one. I couldn't find a live person, and I finally found a recording. I didn't understand the language. I put it on the radio. Suddenly the phones go crazy. I'm like, wow, this is a really good bit today. I mean, they would always do well, but phone lines flooded. I won't say what it was I accidentally put on the radio, Lloyd. I won't say exactly what it was I put on the radio, but let's just say it shouldn't be on the radio anywhere in the world. Yeah, that was not great. I learned a big lesson. Make sure that you run everything by people, because it turned out that language was Arabic, and lots of people understood what was being said. It was not appropriate for anything. Yeah, that was not good. But we survived. We got through it thanks to my incredible bosses and also an incredibly understanding listening public here in the UAE. That's as far as I can go into that story. But yeah, that was a big lesson. That was that was several years ago. I won't say what year either. I just don't want anybody to dox me and say, hey, Brent Black put this on the radio.
Oh, it's interesting you mention a game, because I've got a game lined up for you now.
Oh, fantastic. I love games.
Okay, perfect. So this is, I believe, one of the difficulties of being a radio is that you need to convey so many emotions with just your voice. You've removed the entire visual depth itself. So, and I find that very challenging as well, that you need to come across friendly, happy, engaging, excited, all with just your voice. So this is a voice acting game. I'm going to give you one line, and I'm going to give you a bunch of emotions. I would love for you to repeat that same line with those different emotions, and we'll see how it turns out.
Okay.
All right?
Oh, wow. Okay. And
Okay,
all while I
so-
have an exotic bird in my hand. Fantastic.
Perfect. You made it even more difficult. You made it difficult for yourself. All right. So the line is 99 bottles of milk on the wall. Take one down, pass it around. 98 bottles of milk on the wall, which is also a very funny video on YouTube if people are interested to find, where you and Kris Fade are singing the song. And your first emotion is sad.
99 bottles of milk on the wall. 99 bottles of milk. Take one down. Pass it around. 99 bottles of milk on the wall. Thank you.
Condescending.
Oh, 99 bottles of milk on the wall? Really? 99 bottles of milk? Take one down, pass it around. 99 bottles of milk on the wall, I guess.
Awkward.
99 bottles of milk on the wall. 99 bottles of milk. You take one down, pass it around. 99 bottles of milk on the wall. Baby. Just think of that.
It's interesting because my next one was seductive, but I feel like
Same
is it
answer.
gonna be
Same
different?
answer. Yes.
Okay, last one, scared.
Ha! No! 99! No, that's too much. That's too much. 99 bottles of milk on the wall. 99 bottles of milk. You pass one around. I can't remember the other lines. 99 bottles of milk on... That's it. That's my scared.
You were that scared that you forgot the lines.
I did.
You're into character. Okay, so before we start wrapping up, I have one final question for you, which is, you've met a lot of artists, celebrities, a lot of musicians in your time here. So what's one encounter, one instance that always you keep close to your heart, meeting one celebrity that really changed your life?
I get this question a lot. Oh man, and I a lot of times I just forget, because we've gotten to meet so many cool people, and what's sad is I am the worst when it comes to like remembering things. I am the worst sometimes. I always say, and will always, now more than ever, and you probably know where this is going. Kobe Bryant was incredible. Kobe Bryant came to Dubai in, I think it was 2013, and Kris and I, again, Kris keeps coming up in this. This should be a Kris Fade vlog, I think. Kris and I got to be on the same basketball team that Kobe Bryant coached, and we played the Spanish all-star team, but they were like all the old guys, the retired guys. I think the youngest one was like in his late 40s, early 50s, and yeah, we won. I'm not mad at that. I'll take that W. But Kobe was incredible. Kobe was one of those guys that you just seemed like you were just talking to a normal guy. Being from LA as well, or living in LA, and I consider LA home now. When I go home, actually Dubai is home, but when I go home, I go to LA. It's where I feel most comfortable. It's where I know the most people. It's my happy place. Away from Dubai. Dubai is also a happy place. I have to make sure that people understand that I'm not saying that it isn't, because I really do. I've lived here for 13 years now. Dubai is home. It's crazy. But in LA, I saw Kobe a couple of times, and it's a whole different thing. You never get the kind of access that you get in the UAE. It's incredible. So being around him, getting to talk to him, here in my house, I've got some pictures that I've framed and a jersey of my jersey that I played in, signed. It was just the coolest experience. And his passing last year, which I can't believe it's almost been a year now, was just so unexpected. And I even got emotional on the radio talking to Kris about it. It was just heartbreaking and weird that it happened before the pandemic. It seemed like that year couldn't have gotten worse, and then suddenly it got a lot worse. Just one of those things. It's just like, wow, we had that experience. You can never take that away. It's not something that buying something, having a cool car or something. That's one thing that this job affords you, or these experiences that you'll never forget. They'll always be a part of you. And Kobe, yes, I'll say Kobe. Number 2 was probably Stevie Wonder, just because, man, I couldn't believe that was one of my first years in radio in Los Angeles, and I couldn't believe I was in the same room with Stevie Wonder. He performed for the radio, but it was just a couple of us in the studio, and I've got Stevie Wonder performing in front of me on the radio. Are you kidding me? That was so cool.
I do recommend people to check out. You had a podcast episode on your podcast, Not Fit for Broadcast podcast.
Yes.
In which you and Kris actually gave a tribute to Kobe Bryant. So
wow, yes. Did you hear that?
Yeah, I did. Very powerful. All right. So I have the ending questions. These are 3 quick questions for you.
Okay.
And we'll wrap it up. So the first one is, what are some books, movies, or people that have been very strong, positive influences in your life?
In my life, my grandmother was the most influential person. She just was. I mean, I wouldn't be what I am without her. So I kind of have to reserve her for the most influential. Like I said, I had several different angels in my life that directed me in different ways. Another one is my program director from Los Angeles. He gave me the opportunity. He didn't have to. He's one of those people. His name is Dave Dennis, and he runs a company now called Benstown. They do imaging for radio stations, and they provide shows for radio stations all over the world. And imaging, if you know what imaging is, it's like the stuff you hear between songs, Virgin Radio 104.4, whatever, But he is the kind of person that likes to give young talent a chance. And he did that for me. He didn't have to put me on the radio in LA. He just heard me talking one time. And there's a whole thing about how I got in the radio in LA, but he heard me talking one time. He's like, Brent, have I ever heard an air check from you? Air check is what you sound like on the radio. And it's like, no, you haven't. But when that happened, a light bulb went off. I'm like, oh my God, this is my opportunity. And I made the most of it. He helped me develop. I sucked before, and he helped me suck less. I still feel like every day I'll think, man, that break sucked. So I suck occasionally now. I think we all do. But he helped me develop into something that could be passable on air in Los Angeles. And I will forever owe him a debt of gratitude for that. Just one of a few different angels in my life. Another one I'll quickly go over. This girl, I believe her name's Angie. I wish I had kept in contact with some of these people. But I'm not in contact with her. But this is in high school. She had a decision to make. There was a program. None of my family had ever been in university. Nobody had ever gone to university in my family. There was a program that could get you into Indiana University, my university, for a summer semester to see if you had what it takes to get into the real university, to get into the full-time university. So out of high school, there was this program at the campus, at a college campus, and there were a limited number of spaces at my high school that could get into this program of 400 people. So I think they were only taking 5 people from my school. I missed the deadline. 5 people had already signed up. But one of the girls was thinking about going into the Navy instead. She was thinking about serving in the military, in the Navy. And so a guidance counselor, you guys have guidance counselors where you went to school? Okay, so a guidance counselor told me, well, you can talk to Angie. She's deciding whether or not she wants to either take this opportunity and get into Indiana through this program or go into the Navy. And so I went and talked to her. I remember being in the hallway. I remember exactly, I said, hey, no pressure, but what are you doing? And she's like, I think I'm leaning toward the Navy. And she said, I'll let you know. And then not long after that, she said, yeah, I'm going to do the Navy. And so she opened up that opportunity, not for me, for herself. She did what she wanted to do. But because of that, I was able to get my chance to go into college that I could never really afford, that I could, on my grades, I did not have fantastic grades. So I was able to get into university, prove myself, which I did, and then get into the, after that summer semester, getting into the regular university semester, and just off I went. And that was, if it wouldn't have been for her, I wouldn't have gone to college. If I wouldn't have gone to college, I wouldn't have gotten a job at this newspaper. If it wouldn't have been for the newspaper, I wouldn't have met my friend Sasha. If it wasn't for her, I wouldn't have got the Chic Shave Shack job, and then I wouldn't have gotten the radio job, and then I wouldn't have decided, you know what, I want to move to Los Angeles. I wouldn't have met Dave Dennis. He wouldn't have put me on Los Angeles radio. I wouldn't have lost my job there and then wondered, what next? Hey, I met a guy through my radio station. Didn't talk about this, but he was the one that connected me to Virgin Radio International. It was just all of these things, one after the other, like dominoes falling. If any one of those things hadn't happened, I don't know what I'd be doing. Maybe I'd be a billionaire, a world famous billionaire. I don't know. Or maybe I'd be in jail or worse. So those kinds of people are my heroes, my idols, my angels, whatever you want to call them. You mentioned a book. I will say, as a person who used to be fat, there's an older book now. I think it was written in 2000. It has aged a little bit. It's called Fast Food Nation. And yes, it's written about the United States, but it's something global. What is happening with food is global. And this book is now 21 years old, but incredible author, incredible journey. There is a movie that was sort of kind of made on it, but it has really nothing to do with the book. You have to read food processing and how certain companies have a globalized idea of what they want you to eat and how you should be eating. That was kind of my gateway into sort of investigating what I'm putting into myself. Not that my diet is super clean or anything. I'm not vegan. I'm not even vegetarian. I just don't eat red meat and certain things. I stopped doing certain things and eating at certain places. That book changed me away from radio. Has nothing to do with radio, but that book changed how I think about companies and corporations. I highly recommend it, even though, yes, it has aged a little bit, but it would still pertain to what's going on. I really like how a lot of fast food restaurants have tried to grow since then, tried to offer more healthy options, but still, there is a cradle to grave path that they put you on. They want to start you here and get you here. And sadly, some of the things that they feed you kind of shorten that lifespan.
Last two questions. What would you like your legacy to be like?
Woof. Oh, I don't want to talk about legacy yet. I feel like I'm too young to talk about legacy. But I want people to say about me that I did more good for people than anything else. I was a positive influence, and yeah, I don't, I certainly don't expect my name to be in any history books, or hopefully, because that can go one of two ways. I don't expect to be like remembered for centuries or anything, but in the short term, whatever, I want to be the person who was a positive influence on the community. I was talking to my girlfriend the other day about, I think people are mostly good, and she kind of pushed back a little bit, and I said, no, I really think at the heart of most humans, we are good. We want to be the hero. We are the hero of our own story. Guaranteed, no matter who you know, how much of a bad or good person you think they are, they think they're right. They think they're the hero of their own story. And you do have to reflect on yourself. And I reflect on myself a lot. And I always want to be the best me I can be. And I've been so fortunate, man. I feel like I'm on a free roll sometimes. I feel like so many things could have happened to me, and somehow I've ended up here, and I hope I deserve it. I do. Sometimes I don't feel like I deserve it, just based on what do I do? I talk on the radio. I talk into a microphone, whatever. So I want to help. I try to help as much as I can without taking too much of yourself. You want to be careful. You can't help people so much that there's nothing left for yourself, right? There's nothing left of you emotionally, financially, whatever. But I try to help people and do things for people as best I can. And you know, that's one of the secrets to happiness as well, I think. Do good things. You feel, if you do something bad, you just feel ugly inside, right? But if you do something good, it's just it invigorates you, and it makes life a great place for not only you but the people you help.
You're definitely on a journey of spreading a lot of positivity to a lot of people. I can vouch for that. Listening to you on the radio definitely puts a smile on a lot of people's faces. Final question for you: what do you think is the meaning of life?
If I knew that, I'd be in a different business, I would imagine. The meaning of life, similar to what I just said. The golden rule. What's the golden rule? Did you learn it?
Treat people nicely. I'm paraphrasing, I believe. Be a good person and treat them nice. Treat people nice. Something like that.
Treat others the way you want to be treated yourself.
Right.
There you go. And that's
the message was the same.
That, I think, is the meaning of life for us, for humans. You know, ask my bird. The meaning of life is pistachios, and really, that's it.
Both are great meanings. Brent, thank you so much. If people want to find you, where can they find you? Online, in person?
Online and in person.
Well, wherever they want to find you.
I like to hang out at the corner out here in Dubai Marina from time to time. Just find me on Instagram. People seem to like some of the stuff I do on my Insta story. I try to make it just fun and entertaining and real. So I'm on Instagram at Brent_Black if you want. I'm on other places, but I mean that's the main go-to.
Perfect. Brent, thank you so much. It is an honor talking to you.
Oh, stop it. It's been fantastic. Thank you for being interested enough in me to talk. I can't believe that we've talked this long about me. What a boring subject.